All right, everyone. Welcome to a Christmas show, Combat Radio, with Evan Uncanny, the Hauntkeeper, one of our favorites, one of the heroes at November 21st, Christmas Carol for a Cure, who actually captured everything up close and very personal. I saw some of your photos. I saw some of your content. Excellent is all. I mean, you were literally right in the trenches. He was so in the trenches that I was like, what the fuck is he doing up there? Is he like just, is he doing like the principal detention teacher thing? But I forgot you shoot through your glasses.
Right.
So
Yep.
I was like, oh, he's not standing around. He's actually doing, and that would calculate back to how you get that fantastic content you get on your channel, which is really good. So great job, man. Great job. And I saw you get credit on the Christmas special and in the special features. So IMDb brace for impact.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. And as you can see, a man of few words, but it's not about his accomplishments today. It's about a Christmas show. I have to say too, he got us the Hauntkeeper here, of course, true to his style, got us ripping on an early Christmas classic, which I was not prepared to talk about, but have seen Black Christmas.
Yeah, the original is it 19 it's I can't
It's like
remember if it's
74 or something, right?
1974, I think is the
Yeah.
correct year.
With Lois Lane, who we interviewed, Margot Kidder. She's
Right.
in our archive somewhere. But yeah, so you like that one, huh?
I do. Yeah, it has I didn't even put this together, but it has like the killer POV,
Mhm.
like camera angle or whatever going on pre-Halloween and pre-Friday
Yeah.
the 13th. So I guess would it be like the first probably to do that?
I mean, it depends if you want to bounce in Texas Chainsaw Massacre or not, but it was certainly early in on that game. And the ending is ambiguous, right? You don't really know
Right.
who
Yeah, I was saying it worked better as I don't know the actor's name from 2001. Who's the actor who plays Dave in
Keir
2001?
Keir Delay or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he plays the
Um,
boyfriend, and
mhm,
then there's like a misdirect where you think he's the killer, in the end,
yeah.
like the killer's still out there. And I just was saying I think it's better with him as the killer if they would
Yeah.
have gone that way. I think,
Uh,
it's like a,
it is, by the way, I have a poster for you for your
oh,
efforts,
nice.
signed by the cast.
Oh, that's
Um,
great. Awesome.
they do a misdirect, and he's the perfect guy for a misdirect because he had that kind of quality of like having ulterior motives, always processing and behind the eye. Didn't he look like he was always saying one thing but thinking he was like strangely calm in his communication, but next was like I do have a chainsaw in my trunk,
Yeah, there was
but
that, and then there was weird shit going on where he's
yeah,
like a concert pianist or something, and he doesn't do well, and he destroys his piano, and then
yeah.
he and the main character, his girlfriend, they've broken up, and she's pregnant, and he wants her to get married and like keep the baby and all that. So there's this whole overarching like controlling,
Yeah,
sort of creepy thing going on, which I think like works really well in the movie.
it does. And it's there for those very reasons. It's like always put in the chipped artist who can't quite get the note right. That
Right.
guy it's either good for suspect bait or suspect actual. We'll know in the final act of the film. But I thought, did you say Bob Clark directed that?
Yes. Yeah, that's kind of a fun thing that, you have A Christmas Story and then you
Yeah,
have Black Christmas, and they're very different, you know.
very. And he
Yeah.
was underappreciated. Now, I met him. I met
That's
him
cool.
once, and he told me a couple of fun facts about A Christmas Story. I didn't know about Black Christmas when I met him. But he said that he's in the movie. He's the neighbor Swede who's like, "Damn, you said you won that." That's Bob Clark
Oh, okay, cool.
doing his best, like Midwestern rednecky, I guess. The other thing is, he said Jack Nicholson was up to be the dad in A Christmas Story, and they almost got him, which would have been an
Oh,
interesting take. Although
yeah.
Everyone loves Kolchak as the
Yes.
father. When are they going to do the Christmas Story Kolchak crossover animation? Long
Uh,
overdue, long overdue. But getting back to Black Christmas, I do remember thinking um, that was actually a pretty well made film put together. It was really you kind I stick with it. When I saw it maybe a couple of years ago again, and I stuck with it. I thought it was pretty fun.
Yeah, I was really surprised by how great it was actually.
Who do you think the killer actually is? And again, these are the questions that are hilarious because nobody knows. Even the filmmakers don't know.
I like dove into, like Reddit and went on a Google thing and all that deep dive trying to figure out who it was or who people thought it was, but I I want it to be the boyfriend, but it can't be. Apparently, Peter, the boyfriend, is his name in the movie. But yeah, Billy is the name of the killer. It's the weird, creepy, like obscene calls they get
Hmm.
uh, throughout the movie. But apparently, he's still in the house at the end and at large. But the cops think it's Peter. All the characters think it's Peter, and Peter's, you know, I guess
Oh,
dead or very heavily injured at the end of the movie. So,
right, right.
yeah.
I have to watch this and I have to rewatch this to kind of get a better grasp on it. So much has happened between my viewing and now, but I remember thinking that it was, I liked the way it was shot. I liked the way it was done, and it's perfect for its time because that was a big thing in the 70s and 80s was the crank phone call before, what is it? Was it Star 69 or whatever the
Yeah, that was
return
it.
where you
Right.
could zap them back when that came into
Yep.
existence? There was a time where phones were very quaint.
Yeah.
And I
It was the
miss
Wild
that.
West.
Yeah, I was just talking about this over the weekend. We were at Sammy Davis Jr.'s 99th birthday celebration at the cemetery where his family gets together and does a thing with food. And it's actually a really nice tribute. And with me was former Warner Brothers VP Bill Daly, as well as Loda and a couple of other Warner Brothers vet. And we were talking about how much we missed the art of slamming a phone down. Like that's part of what's missing from the human stress cycle is you used to be able to be like, damn it,
Yeah.
bam, and it
Boom.
was worked out, and he suddenly felt better. And the phone was built to take it. Like you could slam that phone a thousand times. And also
Uh,
there was the sound, like if you had the rotary, which was that in itself was seemed archaic when you had the button phone, but coming
yeah.
to but the rotary, like the sound it made winding back, and then you'd be like, but the grip, like what I miss is the feeling of the grip in my hand. Like,
Yeah,
and
those
I now
rotary
I,
phones are pretty heavy. They had a good
yeah,
stout feel to them. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
and you could always slap someone if he was getting like back up, you know,
Pistol whip them
but
with the phone.
yeah, because now you got this thing and it's fragile, and if you slam it, you're out 600-800 bucks or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But with that, it was like, oh, boom, and
Yeah.
we do miss that. But the crank call thing, that was a real thing. Before we could all ID each other and run each other down or get into ghost tech, but I thought it was cool. I thought it was fun. And but you have a couple of other Christmas movies on your holiday docket, all fun films.
Yeah.
What else can you recommend here this holiday season? What spreads joy in the Hauntkeeper's household?
I think we should talk about Lethal Weapon and Die Hard.
Oh, the
Yeah.
two greatest Christmas movies ever, no doubt.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
and this is a silly argument that I feel I get needlessly sucked into every holiday season of what constitutes a Christmas movie. And we all know if it takes place at Christmas, it's a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Period. Shut the fuck up with your resistance. Like
Exactly.
it's not
100%.
it's not a Christmas movie because you like the subject matter. If a hostage movie takes place on Christmas Eve with Christmas decorations and Christmas music, that, my friends, constitutes a Christmas movie.
That's right. It happens to be at Nakatomi Plaza also and all that. Yeah, that's
Right?
a
Right
Christmas
up the
movie.
right, which by the way is right up the street from us.
That's
Uh
cool.
yeah. I mean all it's so funny, like all the locations that are out in LA and you're like, yeah, that's the Lost Boys Bridge and that's where Dracula lived and that's Nakatomi Plaza. But you also mentioned Lethal Weapon, so let's start with that one. Let's unpack. And by the way, since you mentioned it, we should point out that my bro Al Leong is the king of Christmas movies. He's in both.
Yeah,
He's in
that's right.
both
We
of
were
them.
talking about this.
Yeah.
He's Endo, right? Endo?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got once you make two, once you're credited twice, you're in the running. And I would say because of his personality, he's king of the Christmas movies. And he ad libbed that scene where he grabbed the candy. More on that later.
I love
Um,
that. Uh,
so Lethal Weapon. You saw this in the theaters, did you?
no, no, no. I saw, geez, I probably saw much, much later. It would have been like, I might have seen the second one in theaters.
Mhm.
I know I saw 3 and 4 in theaters, but yeah, like 80, it came out in 87. So 87 was a little too early for me, but still,
Uh, for
yeah,
R-rated content.
yeah,
A fun note about the second one, which is completely catered in all the right ways to inspire people to
yeah,
hate villains. Like, just it's such a rudimentary yet effective thing. Like, let's cast a bunch of South African races at the heart
right.
of like the apartheid struggle as your bad guys. It's like it's all you win before the movie starts.
It's true. Yeah,
You know? Yeah.
that's kind of tough. It's tough to choose which one is the best one. It's
Hmm.
really hard to pick between 1 and 2. And 2, for all the reasons you're saying, is very strong.
I love it. And we were just with a cast member out of two. Well, actually, I was with a couple cast members over the last few weeks, but number one, Jeanette Goldstein was part of our Christmas Carol for a
Correct.
Cure.
Yeah.
Vasquez and aliens, you know. Somebody said illegal aliens sign up. Anyway, little Hudson homage. But I think obviously what's impressive to me about two is they clearly had a bigger budget, but they clearly also used the budget in the right way.
Yeah.
Like the movie's bigger and grander, and the action sequences are more intense. Mark Ralston, also from Aliens, PFC Drake, starts the movie off in the car chase. He just told me a story. We did a
Oh,
toy
that's
drive
right.
together.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah,
we
he's
just
the
did
one
a
that
toy.
gets it the plastic where he walks into
Yeah,
the room to talk to the boss and there's plastic
yeah,
all over the floor and he's like, no problem. It's gonna
yeah.
be fine.
Exactly. And could not be a nicer guy, actually. We were just at a toy drive together talking about Donner because Donner had the best offices at Warner Brothers, and he was there when I started in the mailroom. He had the offices that Spielberg wanted. It was Frank Sinatra's old offices,
Oh,
and they
cool.
were awesome. They were very like they had this retro feel. And I remember meeting Donner, who called everybody kid
Right.
because he had a poster on the wall that was an old Omen European poster that I'd never seen, and I was like mesmerized by the art they had picked. And he had kind of come up behind me, and I didn't even know. And he was just like, "You like that kid? You like that poster?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've never seen this one." And he immediately goes, he looks at the kid in the poster, and he's like, this fucking kid, I tell you, this kid laughed all the way through the movie. He would not be scary. We tried to do that church scene, and he would just laugh and laugh and laugh. That little fucker. And then this is Donner saying all this stuff, and then he goes,
That's
"So I
funny.
had to. So you know what I did? I grabbed him and I pinched him and I twisted his stomach until he was crying, and I said, 'Take that. Now start laughing, you demonic son of a bitch.'" And
Mhm.
I'm like, this is like a week into my job at Warner Brothers. I'm like, this is kind of a surreal place.
Yeah. Jeez.
Working here is a little bit. Anyway, I have to say, I think Lethal Weapon one and its surprising nature and the way it came across. Also, you point out two movies. Well, you also said Die Hard, which would be the third in this sort of conversation. The funny gunshot joke thing was not overplayed to death. It was very new. It was very new at this stage. There he goes. He bounces out.
Hang on. No, just a weird. I don't know. I got
Yeah.
continue.
An alert from your probation officer saying, "Do not do this show."
Yeah, keep the ankle monitor on.
Yeah,
Don't leave
keep
the.
the
Yeah.
ankle, please. Do not. You're not allowed to leave your house, Evan. What are you
Yeah.
doing?
Well, I
Uh,
have a curfew.
but I do like Lethal Weapon. I do like it a lot. I do think it's really unique. I do. I think they shot some of it in Palmdale too, right? There's that whole helicopter sequence, and everybody.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I didn't know where that was, but yeah, that absolutely makes sense for the visuals for sure. Yeah.
Gary Busey and I had the same entertainment attorney, Jake Bloom, at one point, and he set up a meeting between Gary at his beach house and I for another movie I was doing called Night Fever with a K, 70s cop film.
Cool.
And Busey talked all about how he wasn't even wanted in the conversation for Lethal Weapon. He wasn't going to get it. And ultimately, Bloom got him the meeting and he did sell the audition. They said, okay, you're Mr. Joshua. And Busey is quite good in it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's
You know,
amazing. Burning his arm with the lighter and all that.
yeah. For as much with Edo Ross is in that scene, I think, from The Hidden. And
Oh yeah.
is as much as he's kind of a caricature of himself or a character in the minds of the public, he was very effective in that movie, I think. And I think Gibson enjoyed working with him. I mean, they had to work, there's that scene at the end where they fight. And
Right.
in a scene like that, those two actors probably worked together for weeks here and there. So you're going to get a pretty good sense, especially in a fight scene. Ask anyone who's worked with Seagal, and I have, what this guy's temperament is. Like, is he really an actor, and is he just out for the scene, or is he out to prove himself as a person on top of it because his mind is slightly warped?
Right.
And so they've worked a lot, and they deliver that. And that's the one problem I have with the movie, though. You need something there, right? You need is it's like he sets it up like, you want a shot at the title, and I'm like, and I just my thinking is like, isn't there a better way? Like maybe he gets the drop on him or disarms him, and it turns into a fight. Not I'm going to put my gun down because I always cringe at moments like that in movies. Like,
Hey, I'm Alex from Quiet Riot.
I'm Dizzy from Guns N' Roses.
I'm Johnny from Typo Negative. I'm Mike from Wasp.
Help us cure NMOSD and,
with it,
cancer.
Go to Guthrie Jackson Foundation
And donate today.
now.
I think I probably saw the second one first.
oh yeah,
Because
okay.
as far as age wise, I think like the heavy like Riggs on the jagged edge suicide stuff of the first one was probably a little much for me at as a younger kid or whatever.
And they dialed that back.
They
Actually,
did, yeah.
they dialed back the crazy, but the crazy part I think is good. It plays so well into the character. You know, it's pretty funny at times, but
Yeah, I love the idea of a guy who has such a dangerous job and he is suicidal, but he is just like putting himself out there into these dangerous situations and he's like kind of effective to deal with them because he
yeah,
just doesn't care if he gets killed in the situation, like the Christmas tree drug deal scene at the beginning where they're like
right,
it's 100, it's 100 and he starts counting out his like counting to $100 and they're like we'll give you the best tree in the lot, you
yeah.
know.
Well, the best
Yeah.
moment, the best like, and I don't know if it's like an ad lib line is when he's like, "Hey man, stop it, man! I'm gonna lose count." That whole bit
Yeah,
where he
yeah, it's
can't
so
even
funny.
get to 100 without like a distraction taking him off the target. But and I think one of those actors is actually what's his name's dad from Red Hot Chili Peppers. But it's got
Oh,
also the best suicide jump scene. Um, when I was at Warner Brothers, we had a scene in a movie that we had put together where a guy goes up to jump off a building, and like a minute into it, there's another guy that gets up like on the other side of the wall to jump, and the guy takes offense to that. Like, this is my building to jump off of. What do you do? And Warner Brothers made us pull the scene because it was in bad taste. But I have to say, Lethal Weapon's jumping off a building scene is so good. And it's the dude from the original Mad Max, the guy that
oh,
he
it is. You're right. I never even realized that till right now. You're
yeah, so
right.
Gibson probably lobbied for him. They were probably buddies from those days, and
Yeah,
Gibson killed him. He handcuffed him to like a I don't know, some
yeah.
kind of to a car's undercarriage and ignites him. But just where he's like, like of course they would have seen like the blast pad inflate and all that, and but it's done so well where he's like, "Do you want to jump? Do you want?" And just the
He
look
gets
on,
right up in his face. Yeah.
yeah, and
Uh,
just Danny Glover's reactions are so good where he's just like, "Oh
oh shit. Yeah.
Anyway,
It's so great.
gold. Yeah,
Yeah.
movie making gold, and props to Donner for delivering it. Across town in Century City is another Christmas firefight, if you will. Bruce Willis, who was also offered Lethal Weapon at some point, or at least he says. Um, I'm not sure if that was a bait and switch by the studio, if they really wanted him, or if he procrastinated and they went to. Gibson was a little bit higher profile at the time, and Gibson certainly delivered that role. Say
Oh
what you
yeah.
want about the guy now.
Yeah.
He
That's
delivered
one of
that
his
role.
all-time best, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we all,
Martin Riggs is amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we definitely knew him from The Road Warrior, which helped. It helped because we all respected those movies. And I think this is even before, or no, this is after he did
I think.
Thunderdome, and I remember seeing
Yeah.
that in the theater, going, "Wow, this movie's impressive." So
Dude,
he,
Road Warrior came out first in the States, right? And then Mad Max. Wasn't
I'm
that
not
how?
sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how they released it, but and Vernon Wells told me like a story
Love
behind the
Vernon
release
Wells.
pattern on this show. Actually, he was telling me about how he had to fight to get like a a little flap on the back of his pants. But like George Miller is like, no, 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 you're not going to have anything on the back of your pants. And he's like, you got to
So-
give me something. It's going to take the focus off my evilness.
right.
You
I
know?
need some coverage, man. Give me something.
Right, right, right,
Mhm.
right. But it's so funny because so anyway, uh yeah, so Bruce Willis, there's some different. I mean, everyone was offered Die Hard because Frank Sinatra owned the rights in the first right of refusal. It's a sequel to the
Right.
book that was made into a movie, The Detective. The book's written by Roderick Thorpe, if I remember right, and Sinatra did the first. But I'm so glad Sinatra was Sinatra, and he said, he probably said, "I'm not climbing around and."
Right.
Like air conditioning ducts and things like that. And I should say, for the fun of the Christmas epicness that we're having here, is we did a Christmas show a few years back with all the terrorists from the movie,
Yeah, it's
uh,
awesome.
and, and it was hilarious because they would argue in their European accents as to why they died when, and they'd all get on Dennis, because Dennis Hayden was in the studio with us, and he's the guy that everyone mistakes as Huey Lewis in the lobby.
Right.
And he's, I think Al Leong was in studio and Hans was there, and Dennis Hayden prides himself on, I died last. In fact, I should be in the sequel. I had a steel plate in my head from Vietnam, and the
Right.
bullet bounced off, knocked me out, but I got away, and I was ready for Die Hard too. And that's a very Joel Silver way of thinking.
It is. Yeah.
Dennis Hayden, by the way, auditioned to be Jesse the Body Ventura's role in Predator and didn't get it, um, but so he said, they were talking, and the other terrorists are like, "You lived till the end because you were at the desk. You did not have to fight him in the hallways and in the elevators. You
He
were
had
at
it
the you
safe.
sat at the desk." But they were like, it was like so personal to those guys in a funny way. It was like,
All these years later, they're still like,
yeah,
no.
they're like, you got to sit at the desk with your feet up, you lazy American. Anyway,
He's watching football too, right? Wasn't he?
he
He
was watching
kind of had like a
something.
southern accent that he put on too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he is a big Kansas City Chief fan, so but anyway, so Die Hard is one of those magical movies where you see it, and man, that was a fun movie. That was just
Yeah,
unbelievably well put together. John McTiernan has run into some trouble since. Somebody even
for
told me, I
sure.
think Steve Surgic and I were talking that I think he even did a little time but
Yeah, some kind of. I mean, I don't want to. Yeah, so some kind of trouble, some kind of legal troubles. I'm aware of. Yeah,
and I mean, we'd have to look at what that is because people make mistakes, and
true. Yeah,
And so we're not demonizing the guy. I mean, shit, people get tangled up in stuff, and it's not necessarily because they're evil or nefarious. Things get away from them. So we'd have to look at what that situation actually was before, and we should get him on. He should defend himself in a conversation like this. I always like to insult
yeah, it'd be
people
cool.
in the room. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, take them apart when they're in the room so they can defend themselves fairly. But so I really liked his. He had a great run of movies there too, with Predator, Hunt for Red October.
yeah,
But
100%.
uh, without a doubt, Die Hard is just one of those magical movies with like Gutenov as the main bad guy, with Rickman as the smart lead bad guy,
Yeah,
and just the whole comedy aspects of it. Whoever did the script doctor work on that to punch it up humor wise deserves to be like a special pat on the back.
yeah. There's a great, the hero and the villain are so different. I like how they
Yeah.
play on that.
Yeah, and just the small touches. Like I was talking to Robert Davi about him playing Agent Johnson and the other guy's name's Agent, and
This
he
shit's
immediately
so good.
finishes. Yeah, he
Yeah,
finishes the line for you. He goes, "Yeah, no relation."
yeah,
Davi like immediately snaps back into that character. Like he still has so much love for the movie, and I think he was up. He wasn't. He was up to do. Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm confusing his story. When he was doing Goonies, he was up to be the bad guy in Rambo: First Blood Part Two, and he opted to do Goonies with Donner. So, but yeah, so it's just so give me like let's have the best moment from both movies. Best moment from Lethal Weapon first. Best moment from,
oh,
and these are Christmas moments, people, because nothing says a holly jolly Christmas like blowing terrorists off a skyscraper.
yeah. I gotta say, okay, so I gotta think about Lethal Weapon because I want to pick the exact right moment. But Die Hard, what immediately comes to mind is when he drops the C4 down the fucking elevator and just
Yeah.
blows the building up. That's like the whole building just like shakes when that explosion happens. You know, it takes out most of the people in the lower level, all the terrorists. And actually,
Yeah.
one of them is the dude that plays in Ghostbusters 2 was like the body,
Yes.
the actor for Vigo. Yeah,
Yeah, we could not get him for our Christmas show because he had passed away. That was, and
yeah.
that did come up when we were talking about that he was Vigo, and he was a good Vigo for what the movie
Oh yeah,
was.
yeah. I think Max von Sydow ended up doing the voice or something like that, which is
Yeah,
kind of
probably.
cool. Yeah.
Um, that scene is a pretty fun scene. It's just interesting where he immediately knows how to wire up some C4 and what like
He
the
says
brat
fuck it and just
the
sticks the charges
yeah
in. Yeah.
the blast radius. I mean, you got to have some nerve movies in your movie landscape. You got to have some nerve to drop C4 down an elevator shaft, not knowing what the explosive composite actually is, because it could cut the building in half. So it's like one of
Yeah.
those things where you got to sit back and be like, dude, this whole building may come down based on your algebra wiring this up. So but none of that applies because here we are at a Joel Silver universe. And by the way, Joel Silver, I got some great Silver stories from Warner Brothers.
Oh, I'm sure.
The
Yeah.
dude always walked around in what looked like silk pajamas, and I am still waiting for my set of pajamas, Joel. Bill Daly and I are like, when is he going to send us our pajamas?
Shit, I want
Um,
a pair too. That sounds awesome.
yeah, they weren't pajamas, but man, they look like it. Anyway, more on that later. So he drops the C4. I also love the fact that those guys are mobilized, that they know they're going to be assaulted by an armored car. So they've
Right.
got rockets.
Right. Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah. They're like fully prepared for that whole shit from
They
top
not
to
only have
bottom.
rockets, but they've been in training with them because they know to bolt them into the concrete.
Right. Yeah.
They know in the movie universe, they know they're going to wheel those things out and have to bolt them wherever they wheel them out for their you know, armored defense. There's going to be a concrete floor. So we better have a bolt gun that can bolt this
Bring that shit
rocket
down. Yeah.
tripod down. And but it doesn't take away from the movie. I mean, the movie's still such gold. I mean, it's funny because so many of those guys, I don't think really understood when they went out for the casting of it what an opportunity that would be. But they knew, according to Dennis Hayden, they knew about halfway through the production the movie was going to be a hit. He says John McTiernan took him in to see dailies and said, "You want to see what a hit movie looks like?" And showed him.
Nice.
So they knew early that movie had some real explosive potential, no pun intended. And also, I got to give him credit for casting like Bonnie Bedelia, a real
Oh yeah.
person. She really did seem
Everybody's
like
great
a
in that
real.
movie.
Yeah, and she was the star of Heart Like a Wheel. Like she played the real life race car driver, and she had some cachet. But and what's his name from Ghostbusters playing the whole thing with the newscasters, like as in,
Oh, William Atherton. Yeah.
yeah, and he's
Yeah.
like as in Helsinki, Finland, and he's like,
Oh, the
but
fight between these
yeah,
guys is so
oh,
fucking
every
funny.
moment in that is so
He's like,
like
eat
who,
shit, Harvey, or something like that. I can't
yeah.
remember. It's something like he's just has and has to go right into live. It's so funny.
And that feels like, just from my own studio experience, and I don't know if this is accurate, but that feels like a rewrite. Like somebody put that, like, here's how we can put a laugh in. Like, let's have the news team covering this in like debacle like fashion. It's such a great way to infuse comedy away from the real tension they're trying to create. So you cut back to the building where all hell's breaking loose, but you cut to these idiots that are like, eat shit, Harvey. And he's like, you
I
know,
know he starts to get up like he's gonna do something, and then they're like, "Oh no, it's live. You have to do your job." And you just like
yeah.
right into character, that smile immediately. It's so funny.
And I would love, that was a Fox movie, so I didn't see a script on it, but I would love to see a script, an earlier draft, just to see how big that character was, because they try to establish that guy, the Harvey character. And you
Right.
wonder if like there's more to it somewhere in a previous draft and what they maybe shot may have been taken out schedule wise, things of that nature. So it's really, it's interesting to look at some of these movies and the end result and be like, I wonder what was there. I wonder what was there for that character, or if that was what it was.
Yeah.
And
What got trimmed
Goodenough,
down?
Goodenough is so good in it. Goodenough is so good in that movie. Um, died way too early. Really talented. He was a dancer, but died way too
Oh, he
early.
was he was like the big badass
Yeah,
guy that comes back at the end,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And here's the other thing too. If you look closely at the film, right, there's multiple Bond villains in it that would either Bond villains previous, like the guy who plays Goodenouggh's brother.
Oh
And what was
yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Was that the not like was it like not like License to Kill or the one previous to License Living Daylights? You know, you have Davi who went to all opposite Timothy Dalton, I think. So you have a lot of guys with like a Bond lineage coming in and out of the movie too later. The 80s. The 80s was
Yeah,
just
he was the ho ho ho. Now I have a machine gun.
yeah,
Dead in the
yeah.
elevator. Yeah.
Right. Which is brilliant. And I love that they do all that riding on top of elevators because that is some anxious stuff. I mean, elevators
Oh,
and
yeah.
yeah,
Totally.
it's so
But
it
when he
was
jumps
good.
to the vent, it's fucking, oh my God. Yeah, he
And
just kind of falls down and catches it at the last second.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
great too. And there's that golden moment where and that's such a great Christmas decoration. Someone put like a square
Yeah.
with
The
his
vent
picture in it.
explode. Yeah.
Brilliant. But there's that moment too where he's calling 911 and it's typical police harassment. Like they don't there's like a number to call, sir, and he's like getting the shots being fired. And then of course they call the officer to look in and that guy's buying like a boatload of Twinkies.
Right. Al
You know,
Powell. Yeah.
yeah, and it's just like, oh man, the condescension towards the police in the situation is hilarious because they don't take the call seriously. Then the guy they
Yeah.
ordered to, examine it isn't, he's too busy loading up on Twinkies. And then of course they managed to make a connection between those two characters via the radio. But isn't that so? The moment for me in the movie where I said this might be the best movie I've ever seen is when they throw the body on the hood
Yeah. That's
and
awesome. I was just,
they start taking apart his car with the M60 and he
yeah, he
floors it
just
in
starts shooting
reverse.
it. Welcome to the
He-
party, pal.
yeah, he throws it in reverse and there's
Mm.
the limo driver who's bouncing around to the Stevie Wonder
Argyle,
and the
yeah.
thing just rips behind him and I was like this may be the greatest movie I
It
have
is.
ever
That's a great moment. That's
seen.
a great choice
You know,
for
that
sure.
is like whoever constituted the way this scene, and I would love to see the storyboards to see if that was McTiernan or however they put this thing together. That is the greatest moment I have ever seen in cinema. I mean, where have you seen like explain this scene? Like, can you imagine being in the creative bullpen where they're like, "Hey, we're going to throw a body out the window. It's going to hit the police car. Then we're going to take it apart. Then he's going to slam it in reverse. Then we're going to cut to the limo driver bouncing around to Stevie Wonder music, and he's like, "Of course, I'm
Yeah.
still coming over later. Whatever." It's like gold, cinema gold. Anyway, we should do a show. We should do a Christmas show from Nakatomi Tower.
Oh, that'd be cool. That'd
Just
be
go
really
down there
cool.
and just sit in the lobby and be like live broadcast from Nakatomi Tower. Anyway, um, uh, that's that. Three brilliant recommendations from our favorite haunt keeper here, Evan Uncanny, one of the heroes between. Well, one of the heroes who helped us with Combat Radio's Christmas Carol for a Cure, and actually a guy who gets very, very effective content. Check out his channel. I'm going to give you last word on both these movies, and then you got to promise me we'll get you back for a part two to talk Black Christmas in more depth.
Oh, for sure. I just have like a random fact I wanted to throw out somewhere.
Yeah, what do you got?
Bruce Willis and Mel Gibson used the same gun in both of like the literal same prop, the
Really?
same Beretta 92. Yeah.
Huh.
Both characters used that pistol. So yeah, it was the same prop gun in both movies. I like that connection between the two films. It's cool.
That is good. That's good. We did a movie, we shot a film where there was a lot of gunfire, and I remember them wiring the setup for like 2 days with all these like what looked like plexiglass blast pads and stuff like that gun work. Whenever you see a lot of gunfire in a film, man, there's a lot of prep.
Yeah, a lot of safety stuff that goes into it for sure.
Oh man,
Hopefully.
and the armorers too, man, are really unique. There's a gun depot in Burbank, not too far from Warner Brothers, that I toured, and they had every single gun. And I remember they said there was like a sawed-off pump-action shotgun that almost like was just a little bit bigger than like large handgun style.
So Mad
And
Max kind of shit, right?
yeah, and
Yeah.
but it was like a pump action. I was like, damn, look at this thing. He goes, yeah, well, that's going out to Miami Vice for Jamie Foxx or something at the time. He's like, so I was like, oh, okay, so this is definitely the shop people are coming to. This is definitely the armor you want on your action film. But there is some good. There's probably a few crossovers. Like I like to think these movies happen in the same universe.
Yeah, that is kind of like that little fact to me kind of connects the two of them, in some way at least. But
Yeah.
I would love to think that they happen in the same universe for sure. Yeah.
Somebody needs to do like a crossover edit of like Martin Riggs blowing right past the Nakatomi Tower. Like, I don't have time for this.
Right. Uh,
I've got crazy Vietnam veterans from Shadow Company, which what a great backstory there, right? And that's a
oh
Shane
yeah.
Black script, right? Shane Black wrote,
Yes,
uh,
that's correct. Yeah.
and was it Steven D'Souza who wrote Die Hard?
I don't know.
Um,
I know Shane
hmm.
Black wrote yeah, Lethal Weapon. And I know I actually kind of have a I talked to Tom Atkins,
Did you?
who's
Yeah,
Mike, is it Huntsacker, I think, in the movie? The
yeah.
Riggs or
Hold up, buddy.
Murtaugh's
But
old
I
Vietnam
believe
buddy.
he's the legend who anchored Halloween 3.
Correct, correct. And Night of the Creeps. I mean, he's just a super
Yeah.
cool guy, but he told me a story about the helicopter, during the funeral, the helicopter flies by.
Mhm.
Um, and it was pretty the extras were nervous, and it was pretty like a recent thing to the whole Twilight Zone Landis thing, so they
Right.
were nervous because of that. And I guess Donner was like, hey, like helicopters are the most dangerous when they're hovering. This is just a flyby, just a quick moment. So either you guys do this, or we're gonna just get another group of people to come in and fucking replace you basically and do it.
Yeah.
So they were less nervous after he kind of talked to him. But Tom Atkins just randomly told me a story last time I saw him at Creep IE. Actually, I took my daughter out there and we got a
Oh
picture with him. It
yeah.
was cool. Yeah.
Cool.
But I
So
had him sign a 8x10 of him, getting shot, through the eggnog, and it says, "Oh no, my eggnog!" It's good stuff. So,
that's awesome.
yeah.
Atkins is a team player. We know that about him. What's interesting about your story that comes from Tom is that Al Leong was actually on the stunt team for Twilight Zone too. Not
Oh.
Twilight Zone the sequel, but Twilight Zone as well.
Oh, okay, okay.
So there is now a connection between the Tom Atkins Twilight Zone story, Lethal Weapon, and Die Hard. How crazy! And it's Al Leong, who is every third stuntman in every third. He was like the stuntman in 72% of the world's action movies in the 1980s.
Also in Big Trouble in Little China, right?
Yes, yes, one of
Yes.
his all-time favorites, who we love. We love him in that. We love that film. Actually, I should say him and John Carpenter have actually been good supporters of our charity work, and they deserve their props for that.
Yeah, it's
I like
cool.
that. I like that scene, and that sounds like Donner. I'll tell you, one of the guys I'm interviewing next actually is Mark Marshall, who was Spielberg's assistant. He was also Donner's assistant. He just came out with a new book that will profile. It's called like I think Goonies, Droids, and something, or Droids, something, and Goonies. But he told me a story when he was working for Donner. He just bought a new car and it caught fire. He was running an errand for Donner and it burned to the.
Oh,
So he
jeez.
shows up at the production office and he's late. And Donner's like, "Where the fuck have you been?" And he goes, "I'm so sorry, but I've been on the side of the road and I was just scooping up dirt in my hands and throwing it on my in." Like, Mark is a very genuine guy. He's like, "My car burned down and I was just so terrified. I was throwing dirt on it." And so I guess later, at a later date, uh, Donner asked him, like, "What's going on with your car? Did you get that straightened out?" And Mark said, "Well, I called the dealership and they're saying it's not their fault. It's my fault, even though the car was new." And so Donner gets on the phone and he says, "Listen, I got a guy here. We're going to need to replace his car." And they said, "No, we're not doing it. We're not doing it." He says, "If you don't replace his car, then in my next movie, I'm going to have your car and a bunch of nuns in it. And it's just going to suddenly explode as a hazard of its safety. And it's like basically like, and all those nuns are going to get burned alive
They're
in
gonna
my,
get barbecued, yeah.
and we're going to trace the investigation back to your branded car." And he hangs up the phone and the car gets paid for. You know,
Nice.
it's funny because we all know that customer service varies based on the potential damage said customer can ultimately do to the brand. Sad fact of the American way of life right now. But I
For
was like,
sure.
I
Yeah.
get one attitude, but if I throw down like my Universal Media card, then all of a sudden it's like, well, maybe we can do something about this.
Right.
It's like anyway. So that's my Donner story of the day. Oh, did you come up with a lethal weapon scene to end on? What do you got?
It's
It's
not like a
hard to.
big action scene, but I love the part where after they jump off the building, Murtaugh fronts Riggs and hands him his gun and says, put it in your mouth and all that. And the thing that stops him from killing himself is Murtaugh putting his thumb in between, the firing pin and the bullet, basically. And he goes,
Yeah.
"Holy shit, you're not drawing Psycho Pinchin. You really are crazy." And it's like that's kind of the turning point of their relationship in the movie where they start to become friends. But before that point, they're kind of at each other a little bit. So
It is hard to move past that jump scene without giving it an honorable mention in this discussion, at least. But one of the subtleties to Glover's performance, who is an underappreciated actor, is when he actually shoves his thumb in between the hammer and the gun and goes, "Ouch."
yeah,
He
yeah.
like he acknowledges there's pain there. He's like, "Ouch." You know,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
so
Yeah.
funny. It's so funny. Oh yeah, Raj, you're breaking in a new partner today. And he's like, "Good." And then he's like, he runs down the hall and gets like judo slammed by,
Yeah,
but
tackles him.
there's
Yeah.
so many great moments between those two guys. And, and they made, it was such a smart, savvy move to bring the Murtaugh family into it
Yeah.
and to show like that human side of life where that made the character very equal in the minds of the audience, where before it would have just been seen as like an older mentor type, maybe get back to Riggs' story, but they include the story in the family life or lack of family, which is what set Riggs off in the film. And I thought that was smart script writing, actually.
Yeah. And it becomes his found family through the movie also.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And he does spend Christmas there, as we know at the end of the movie. So it's a Christmas movie,
right. Right.
you
Bringing
know.
his dog to go eat Burbank the cat, right? At the end of the movie.
And is it a Wonderful Life or is it a Christmas Carol that's playing on the TV when Gary Busey storms inside?
Yeah, I
I
think
think
it's a
it's
wonderful life.
Scrooge. Do you
It's a
think
wonderful.
so?
Yeah,
Because
because he
doesn't he
said,
say? Because isn't it like
"Oh, it
what
is
day is it?
Scrooge."
He
Because
goes,
they like, yeah, it's fucking Christmas or
"Yeah,
something
Christmas."
like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah,
Okay, we got to double check that too because our
yeah.
memories
I
aren't what
think
they
you're
should
right.
be.
I think you're right about it being Scrooge.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, two golden recommendations. And we should also throw in Black Christmas for all the people watching. That's a good choice, man.
and a
That's a
Christmas story too. Just do the G-rated one, then do the
yeah.
crazy R-rated one. And I will say, you were talking about the crank calls earlier. It's effectively creepy and unsettling and obscene. The actual prank, like the obscene calls they get in the movie, you're kind of like, shit, like this is a whole
Yeah.
movie, but man, it's creepy. So
The dude pushes it. And what's funny is he pushes it to Margot Kidder, who the rumor was she actually pushed it quite a bit too. But
yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of
Her
funny.
character's fine.
This is pre Lois Lane, of course. And it's just God, is Olivia Hussey in that too? I think Olivia Hussey's in that. I have to look at it again. It's
I
a
don't
great
know.
cast. I mean, the cast makes these movies.
Was she the one in Romeo and Juliet?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's like the main, final
Yeah.
girl or whatever. Yeah, in that
Death on
movie.
the Nile and yeah, like the casting in these films is extraordinary, and they really do sell these movies without any unnecessary like scenery chewing and nonsense. Where
Yeah,
actors tend to like, I think actors now have a hard time remaining still within the framework of a scene. They feel like they have to draw attention to themselves. Where oftentimes, when you are in a similar scene in real life, you're not drawing attention to yourself. You're riveted on the speaker or the point of focus. But
right.
now I feel like actors make as much racket or noise, and in these movies, Black Christmas especially, the actors come off as very believable in that situation.
Yeah, that's one of the things that stood out watching it was how good all the performances were. Even
Yeah,
even the actor, like you mentioned his name before, that plays the boyfriend who you think is the killer. Like he has his explosive kind of psycho moments, but he knows to kind of hold that back.
yeah,
It's not like a caricature or something kind of over the top. It feels very natural and real,
right.
which is why I think as you're watching the movie, he's more of a suspect because it's more of a realistic depiction of somebody with psycho tendencies. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, man. So there you go. Christmas classics waiting for you. All three are Christmas movies: Black Christmas, Lethal Weapon, and Die Hard. They may not be the Christmas movie you want, but they're the Christmas movie you need.
That's right. That's right.
Evan Canny is one of the brilliant people covering everything interesting in California, primarily haunted related stuff. He's the Hauntkeeper on Instagram. His content is brilliant. He was also a pivotal part of our coverage for Combat Radio's Christmas Carol for a Cure, so we are indebted to him, but more so, his coverage is exceptional. It's all worth checking out. It's very, very well done. And as you can tell from the conversation here, he is both a charismatic and knowledgeable personality. Evan, buddy, happy holidays. We love you.
Same to you. Love you too. And thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.